Hi everybody, this is Edward again, and thought I would make a little video about the beta launch of ArmA3 Project Life. Now if you look at my channel, you can see I recorded some gameplay, and I spent a good amount of time playing this game up to about 3 or 4 months ago when, unlike most software development, the developers of ArmA3 Project Life decided at the end of alpha to take their server offline and to, I guess, let their player community wait and anticipate all the changes and the fixes and the updates that were going to be part of the beta release. And so there was downtime there in between. There were a couple of deadlines when it was supposed to come out, and those deadlines passed. And then finally there was a deadline that was this past Saturday, and Saturday night was spent waiting for the deadline and being told almost now, and it didn't happen. It got pushed back 24 hours until Sunday. There was waiting for it almost now, and then late Sunday night, the beta release happened. To say that the beta release was a smooth process would be a total fabrication. It was not. But again, in my opinion, there's some very creative and some very smart developers as part of the ArmA3 Project Life team. And so they offer something that you're not going to find anywhere else. And so you do get a little bit of leeway for that. And the other thing is a week from now, when bugs and things are fixed, I agree with another streamer and another reviewer, Corman Shepard, whose YouTube stream is Tactical Corgi. I agree. You know, a week down the road, if the problems are fixed and everybody is having a great time playing in the game and being able to do things you can't do other places, then the long wait between alpha and beta, which, you know, during it, people were scratching their heads saying, you know what, you got a player community, and then you just kind of shut things off cold, and people wander away or lose disinterest. And then there's this great big hype, and then the execution of the beta launch was problematic. Makes you wonder, but you know what, a week from now, if this is all working great, you know, people aren't going to really remember that. They're going to be living in the present. So keep in mind, I'm recording this video like fresh off of a couple months wait and 2 really rough days of waiting for it to launch and it being delayed. Now, what ended up happening last night was it was really late, and for a couple reasons that I'll get into, I didn't jump on and play. Instead, I watched a couple other players get into the server and have the kind of problems you would expect with some dialogue boxes or figuring out how things work. I'll go ahead and hold off on that. Hopefully I'll have those problems and they'll be in my stream. A couple things technically to talk about. This game requires you to have purchased ArmA3, which is a product, kind of a military simulator, if you will, from Bohemia Interactive. I have an account, a code for Green Man Gaming, which maybe if I can find it, I'll throw up on the screen. But the reality is, from Bohemia directly through Steam, if you want to use G2A, you can. Be careful about the specifics, but you got to spend $30 to get a license for ArmA3. And then once you've got that, there is a paywall for access to this modification for ArmA3, the Project Life mod. It's a $30 payment, and you might say, hey, well, hold on a second, why isn't this server free? Well, there's a good reason for that, and the reason for that is, unlike other ArmA3 mods out there, the content, the models, like you see here, the helicopter model, the ambulance model, the building model, the model of the Crown Vic police car. The models that they use have to either be ones that were created and published for people to be able to use them for free, or they have purchased and licensed the use of those modifications. There are other ArmA 3 mods that are out there that have models and content that you might say the history or the heritage or the sourcing of is either questionable or it's an outright ripoff. And so one of the things that has necessitated this $30 paywall, and again, one of the things that I think makes the ArmA 3 Project Life mod unique is the fact that everything here is above board. And the bottom line is that it costs for people to build things from scratch that you own, and it costs to license things. So yeah, so you then go on to the forums at ArmA3ProjectLife.com, and you create a player profile. This is a role-playing mod, so you need to have a character, first and last name. You need to be at least 15 years old, a little bit older than that if you want to be on the police force or some of the other factions. And but they don't have an upper limit, so old people like me, you know, we're able to play too, which is nice. Otherwise, we're talking age discrimination lawsuit. I kid. Anyway, the you make an application, you have to be accepted. Once you're accepted, then at that point, you go ahead and you pay the $30 to them for access. It's another way that's unique. Typically, Bohemia Interactive has not let people monetize the game because of the practices adopted by the ArmA 3 Project Life folks. They are being allowed to do this. And there's a whole lot of stipulations and rules around that, and I'm not going to go into all that, but let's just say I's are dotted and T's are crossed, right? Now, yeah, people were complaining about having paid and then things not launching on time, but let's get beyond that. So anyway, you create your character. You're going to role play while you're in there, which means if you're standing there and you see a car explode, you go, oh my gosh, that car exploded. You know, let's go see if we can help the people that are in there. If somebody then comes out from behind a tree and points a gun at your head and they say, you know, put your hands in the air, you know, give me all your money, it means you pretty much, they got the drop on you and you need to do that. You can't, you have to role play it as if you value your life and, you know, whatever. If you were in Grand Theft Auto mode and you're like, what the heck, I'll take my gun out and I'll just shoot back. Worst thing can happen is I get killed and I spawn back in the game. Then, you know, then that's not allowed because you're acting like you're playing a video game instead of role playing like, you know, you value your life. So there's some rules like that you have to follow. And another significant change that I saw from people playing last night is it's got a player-based economy, right? And so that gun, for instance, or that money that somebody would have in their pocket, it has to be created and made within the game's economy. So last night, people get in, and basically the only thing that was already made was a crappy car that you got, and you could buy a pickaxe and a shovel for $1. And beyond that, people were having to go find ore deposits, coal, oil, iron, and other things, and then collect those things and take them and make them into something, either sell them for money or then turn around and create things. So that person with the gun would have had to have either collected the resources and made the gun, or they would have had to earn money somewhere else and found somebody to sell them the gun. Or they, once they got the gun, I guess they could go around robbing people for money, right? So that's innovative, and it's certainly going to make the game different than other mods. The two things, the two ways that it affected the game, from what I can see from the initial gameplay, is people were kind of frustrated at first that you couldn't jump in and do a lot of different things. And if you're used to either watching or playing a game where you get right down to the action, it means the pace of the game, at least at first, until the economy is up and running, is a lot slower. Back to the technical side of things. there are files that are related to the ArmA3 Project Life modification. And as of now, there are two ways to get those files. One is a file that's a large zip file that's on a Dropbox that you download, and then you move things into the proper directories on your computer. The other way is there is a server that's set up for transferring those files called a repository, and using another program called ArmA3 Sync, you put in the specifics and then it knows how to pull down those files and place them in the proper directories. A little bit easier to use for installing a mod. And in fact, last night at the initial launch, the repo was overwhelmed by all of the traffic of people trying to download stuff, and the Dropbox was much faster. I used the repo last night. It took a while, but it was okay. I connected again to the repo this morning to see if anything was updated, and there wasn't. But that appears to be working, and probably will work pretty well as long as you don't have over 100 people trying to hit it at once. And that brings up a good point. Right now, there is one server for ArmA3 Project Life. It has 100 slots, so 100 players can play at once. They've sold more beta access than that, and last night and the previous night around the launches, there were about 150 people connected to the TeamSpeak server, and I'll get back to TeamSpeak in a second, as well as on the shout box in the forums here, like you see on the screen at this website. There's a chat section called the shout box. And so the initial demand was overwhelming the capacity of the server. Although I have to admit, even when it was full, the performance most of the time looked okay. And the problems that there were with performance could have been, they could have been being DDoSed. And so I'm not going to say that there's any issues with server performance. I can't say that conclusively. But anyway, so the point is that another reason I watched last night instead of trying to drop to join. So you use the repo or the Dropbox, you get the mod files installed on your system, and then you make sure that when you launch ArmA3 Project Life, you launch it with those mods loaded and enabled. There's a post on the forum that explains all of this stuff. I'm not going to make a how-to video. Corbin Shepherd or Tactical Corgi, he's made a great video, and he's updating a post on the server that tells you how to do all of that. Now, I mentioned TeamSpeak just a little while ago. That is another program that you need to have installed on your system, and you have to have a working, clear microphone as well. And that's how you talk to other players, right? I had problems this morning getting the plugin that they use on ArmA3 Project Life. There's a TeamSpeak plugin called Task Force Radio, right? And what this does is this lets you only hear the people that are close to you, and the further away somebody gets, the quieter the volume gets until it gets to the point where you can't hear them anymore. Really cool. It's a really cool way of implementing stuff. I had a problem getting that plugin to work in the 64-bit version of TeamSpeak. So this morning, one of the things I had to do was uninstall TeamSpeak and then install the 32-bit version. And once I did that, that problem cleared up. I already had the other settings in TeamSpeak, like the TeamSpeak server to connect to, and my identity, which has got tags and other things associated with. That had already been set up prior. Now, there is something else I should probably bring up at this point while I'm talking about TeamSpeak. Most people, my assumption is most people are not having difficulty with the TeamSpeak server that's being used by ArmA3 Project Life. They did move to a different TeamSpeak server between the alpha and the beta launch. I think this move happened pretty recently, and as a result, some people who previously were able to connect, like me, started having a problem. We've been told it's because the TeamSpeak server provider that they use is blocking ranges of IP addresses. My Florida ISP, which is a large ISP in the United States, falls under that. They're supposed to be working on it. I filed a support ticket, which they acknowledged and they closed, but when I have dealt with help desks, usually tickets aren't closed until the problem's fixed. But anyway, that's something I'll get into later. But anyway, the workaround for now is to use a VPN. And by using a VPN, you come in on a different IP address, right? Because you're exiting out of the VPN provider. And if that one's not blocked, everything's great. However, that can introduce a problem depending upon whether now you've got the cost of paying for that VPN or there's other bandwidth limitations associated with it. Normally, I don't use a paid VPN. So I looked for a free VPN, and the support team had a couple suggestions. And I found one, and what I found during my experimentation was that if I used that free VPN provider's US server, it was still IP blocked. If I connected to their European server, then I was able to connect TeamSpeak, and that's required if you're going to play on ArmA3 Project Life. However, it slowed my connection down, right? And so one of the things that I have done is I have updated the game, right, connected to the repo, downloaded these files. I've done all of that without going through the VPN because you want it to happen quicker. I'm at the point now where I'm going to try to play the game, and before I do that, I will connect that VPN connection to the VPN server that's over in the EU, and then I'll connect TeamSpeak, and then I'll launch the game to play. Because I think that's going to affect performance, the one thing that I'm not going to do that I would like to have done is to capture that gameplay and stream it up to Twitch, right? Because that's going to add additional bandwidth, and that connection would also be going through the VPN server over in Europe. Now, my compromise is that I'm going to do like I'm doing right now. Instead of stream live, I'm going to capture that gameplay locally, which puts extra traffic on my hard drive, but it won't put anything over the network. And then, assuming I'm able to connect and play, after I finish playing on the server and can disconnect from the server and disconnect from TeamSpeak, I'll drop that tunnel connection, and then I will edit the video, and then I will use, just my non-VPN connection to upload the video to YouTube or upload it to Twitch now that Twitch supports uploads. So until they get that VPN situation straightened out, I'm probably not going to be streaming live. I hope that using the VPN connection is going to allow enough performance that the game's going to work and it's going to be enjoyable. And that'll be something that we'll see. And if it makes the game unplayable or too laggy, then that'll be in one of my video reports. And obviously, I'm kind of in a wait and see mode. I know that since it doesn't affect everybody, they want to, the support team, the programmers and developers, they want to be fighting the fires and fixing the bugs that affect the majority of the players. So I've probably got about a week's worth of patience to see if they're going to fulfill their promise to fix this VPN blocking issue. I'm not building up my hopes based upon the past promises broken, but or deadlines missed. But again, I think the good of the many should be prioritized over fixing problems that only affect a few folks. So stay tuned. There'll be an update for that. So at this point, hopefully I have described what the ArmA3 Project Life mod for ArmA3 is, and why role-playing gamers like myself who want to go in and kind of play a game that's kind of more of a life simulation, as opposed to you're just cops and robbers, or your armies that are fighting against other people. Hopefully I have explained and my next video will be illustrative of the really cool and unique stuff that would, if you're saying, why would anybody put up with all these hassles, that would make that pretty obvious. Another thing to keep in mind is the people that are doing this. It's not like they're a huge multi-million-dollar corporation. Say, for instance, Rockstar, who published the Grand Theft Auto series, or one of your other big game dev / publishing house. We're talking about, there's a couple people that are doing the hardcore coding. There's maybe a dozen people that are doing the models and the skins for the objects and the other resources in the game. There's probably 24 people that are volunteer staff that are doing things like managing the community, responding to stuff on the forums on the website, supporting people when they have problems on TeamSpeak, right? So that, while not being an excuse, that also should be taken into account when we talk about problems, issues, time to resolution. So again, I think that it's definitely possible to critique and offer suggestions, while at the same time taking that into account. I think people's expectations, kind of are set somewhere between, this is totally free and you paid a whole bunch of money for it. Now, how much a whole bunch of money is clearly subjective. So I'm ready to set up that, make that VPN connection go active, connect to TeamSpeak, launch the game, and see what's going on. So hopefully the next thing you're going to see is going to be some captured game footage from ArmA3 Project Life, the new beta launch. Looking forward to it.